Because it was the first time after the Cultural Revolution. So I had no any concept what is the master degree. I never had this kind of preparation, and even the school system is not, even today you see a lot of problems, lack of a system. But that time it's just like just for me it's like a fantasy. So I was so desperate, wanted to get in, this, and I didn't know Lu Yuanshao, my master, and then actually I was in the wood carving factory in Shanghai, and I was designing all these the folk art, which I hated. Two professors actually, they were from Zhejiang Academy. They were very interested in my work, and then they actually researched on the candidates for Lu Yuanshao's, nationwide only selected 5, and then because of the first time to open master program, there's so many people and also different ages. I was one of the youngest, so my school classmates like 12 years or 13 years older than me. After I graduated, actually, I stayed in the college. I started to teach. I spent most of the time actually reading, but that time reading actually, there's one thing I think I should identify. Most things you read actually from the book imported and also translated, even though this kind of the influence on your own Chinese study, because you don't look at the Chinese tradition, Chinese philosophy, or the Buddhism or Taoism in its own way. It's not like old masters that they studied Taoism, and actually you studied the Taoism and this kind of Chinese philosophy from the point of view from the West. I made 2 points, which is different than the other participants in the 85 movement. 2 things I didn't agree. One is totally westernized, totally polite,
right.
Take from the West. And although I understand at that period, the West contemporary art is important, that moment to break through all these, barriers, the government, kind of regulations. But it's not a purpose. Purpose has to establish your own contemporary culture, your own identity of the contemporary art. So I always think about it. It went both ways. My slogan, and I actually published, there's an interview published with Fei Dawei, right?
Yeah.
So I talk about it both ways.
Right.
At the same time, you absorb from the contemporary art from the West. At the same time, you try to use Chinese tradition, Chinese value to evaluate the Western modernism. This is so important. This is the way you establish your own cultural identity, not just totally take over. Only 2 years for the master program, and the final half year, we were actually focused on the graduate thesis and the paintings. Actually, I did the kind of symbolic works, actually kind of a semi-surrealistic, semi-romanticism kind of work. Actually, I used subject matter of Liszt as a pianist from Hungary. I was into the music, so I married the Chinese painting with this kind of thing. And Lu Yuanshao said, I read it when that's thesis, I don't understand what he talk about. This is my first solo show. Actually, I got this chance actually from Wuhan Xiao. There are other scholars from Xi'an whose name is Chen Zhen. Chen Zhen actually, his specialty actually is not contemporary art, ink painting. He's a folk art. He did big books on the folk art. Shanxi has a lot of folk art, and he come to my academy, asked if I was willing to do a show in conjunction of this national symposium. And of course, I thought this is a great chance, because during that period, this kind of work only can exchange ideas among the studios and artists. You never get exposure in the national level and then official, symposium. So I said, I do it. So, and Chen Zhen actually warned me, and you can do whatever you like to do to put in the show, but there's a chance your show may not exist. I just warn you first because he knows the situation. And the gallery actually called the Xi'an Artists Gallery, situated in the center of Xi'an. But the symposium took place in Yangling, which is a kind of an ancient town, is outside of Xi'an. In order to show my contemporary ink work, the organizer also said you have to do another show on the third floor or something, I forgot, third, fourth floor, is focus on your traditional ink paintings in order to protect yourself. So just say one that has a good tradition, so he's able to do something new. That was one of the very first performance, because the work is done by my six students, and I did a cross. It's also, you see, obvious Cultural Revolution influence. You cross out this bad person, this good person, and this was remind me. I did this cross the name of my teacher in elementary school, so I got great fun. Right before the opening, I think the chairperson of Shanxi Artists Association, just for his sake of security, he invited the propaganda department of Shanxi to go through the show. Then afterward, I didn't know this. I was in the, and then they informed me that the show shouldn't open. Just right a few minutes before. Man, the whole way in and outside of the artist gallery had full of people from the Xi'an Academy, Fine Arts Academy, and then some students were really angry, wanted to carry the work into the street, but of course the door locked. Then that time Liu Wenxi was the president of the Xi'an Academy, and he told his graduate student, and it's actually they told me, and don't look at Gurunda's show, otherwise you cannot be a graduate. That time I was really young. Anything not related to art, who cares? If the official comes and they close the show, okay. If let me show, it's okay. I just want to do good work. So naive, so idealistic. So and the show closed, and I said okay. I never thought I want to protest. I just said okay, just close. It doesn't matter. So then and actually. Ironical thing was the closest show, and the chairman of the association son has a signature. You can go into the show. Actually made a big fuss, made a national attention, So that was I think the peak period of me. I'm not a professional philosopher or thinker. I just wanted my work has a depth, so it kind of discover. So when I read a book, I never read a book completely as like a Hegel or Kant. I all read these books, the logics, or very difficult books, especially for artists. That's why many articles said that when the Gu's art can be a thinker's work, can be artist's work. In swing this among these things, and when I read a book, I had a clear idea. It's for me, so I don't want it to be influenced only by certain book. When I read, I read several books at the same time, so I compare ideas. Let's say Kant and Hegel. Or Nietzsche or Wittgenstein. The most influential I got is actually from Nietzsche. Nietzsche is not a professional philosopher. He's kind of a literal, linguist, and plus he's a novelist actually. He's not a professional philosopher as in Hegel or Kant. But for me, it's more. his words, like for me, it's like hit my blood. So kind of more into as a human, not technical philosophy terms. So this is more influential for me, and also probably because Nietzsche and the other one, Su Benhua. I don't know the German words. It's one philosopher earlier than Nietzsche, who they both actually influenced by the Buddhism and Hinduism. So, and I was kind of early on in the conversation. I said the avant-gardists from '85 movement, they look at Chinese tradition actually not from the own angle, it's from the Western angle, just like Nietzsche. They look at the Buddhism and the Hinduism. So, and I don't know it's good or bad is another issue, but because if without Nietzsche, without the Western thinkers who look at the Asian things, probably I would never look into the Chinese tradition, and the philosophy, because of they look at it, we follow their steps. The same thing can be said differently. Right. One thing it can be said by the Western thinkers, and it can be said by the Eastern. But when I did reading these books, I'm very picky. One thing I want to try to find a conflict among the books. This guy said this way, this guy said. I want to pick up this kind of conflict. The other thing I want to pick up the similarity. Even different schools, actually they are the same species for me. I try to find the similarities. This is the way I look at the books. Not just I want. Normally you read a philosophy book, you want to get a center concept. You want to get the whole thing of the book. This has never been my turn. My turn is try to pick up the conflicts, pick up the similarities among the different schools. I don't know whose connection, maybe Vabanov's wife, who was the representative of Pierre Cardin in China. She is a capable person. Also, he organized the Maxim restaurant. And I think she maybe had a connection with Xiaofeng. Xiaofeng was the president at that time. And they made a deal, invited her husband, Vabanov, to open and his tapestry studio. At first he did it in Beijing, but it's not a formally as a research institute, but the Jiang Academy opened for this. And Ho Hanru was very active to support this. I was not the formal member of the tapestry institute. The studio. That time I was the teacher of the Chinese painting department, and he once went to my ink studio. He's so excited by these big explosive ink paintings. Why don't you, if you're interested, come to our tapestry studio, do whatever you like to do. He never control me anything. I didn't have a clue how to wave things, right? I just found out the very basic. I don't want a sophisticated, fancy waving. It's not my purpose. My purpose is how to incorporate with ink, with other media. That's my purpose. And he's totally free for me to do it. And because of him, actually, the government, the academy doesn't say any word. If without him, probably, this is also, and because of Vabanov, so government, the school, government doesn't say anything about it. You should do this, do that way, it's totally free. So this is, I think, that treated the people a little bit differently, And Vabanov is not such a big, famous artist. I think it's very normal artists, it's not, but it was really rare because that period of time you don't really have a foreign scholar or foreign artist to establish a studio.
Right.
It was not allowed,
Sure.
but this is a unique case. So I think that it's a good thing. It's still raw, and just by my instinct. The work has to be, if you want it to be power, it has to be super dimensional. So it's not an audience standing in front of work. So you have to wrap this is a work I created for the show in Xi'an. So I wanted all the paintings, big, gigantic paintings on the wall is not just individual paintings. I want to create these. Each painting is just an element of the whole space. So when audience come in, they feel that the whole thing as a unit. It's not just one piece by one piece. You look at it, individually. So this is always in my mind. So, and although I was not so clear about the installation, this category, this word that time is not so clear. But I have kind of instinct, and I also look at it from magazines. In New York and in other places already existing installations, I kind of absorbed, but not so refined. So this is just like so. Look at these works. It's all almost like in the birthplace. It's not total. It's meaningful. It's significant, but it's not a totally refined or totally developed. To tell you the truth, I didn't really have a clear mind. It was kind of rawness, right? Also kind of vital, expression. Kind of primitive in the sense. I just kind of. It's almost like a renaissance. You have, you exploded these ideas, but you don't really had a conclusion. Some